How old were you when Daniel Boone ended?
12.
12. So then you went back to regular school?
I got
after
thrown
that?
right into a junior high school.
And how did kids treat you?
I got the beat out of me.
Oh.
I got beat up, and let's see if you're as tough as you were in Daniel Boone. And my girlfriend thinks you're cute. And it was a very rough time. And I didn't know how to fight back. Didn't have a dad, didn't have older brothers. I grew up on a set where you listen. The teachers loved me because I listened to adults and took direction well. But the kids, and then once the kids found out that you didn't fight back and they could pick on you, then it kind of became a thing.
Hi, I'm Rob Word. Welcome to A Word on Westerns, and we have yet another exciting day for you. And you know why? We're not at the Autry today. We're in Lone Pine, California, which is where so many of the great Westerns were shot. And we've got a special guest with us, a man that you've recognized when you see photos of him as a little kid. He's older now, and he's still working. It's great to have him here. Darby Hinton. Welcome, Darby.
Thank you. Older, I don't know if much wiser, but...
So, how do you like it here in Lone Pine?
Oh, you love it. I mean, except for there's no place to park the horse. Besides that, it's great. No, what a wonderful town and the history, and it's just... it's gorgeous. Look at those mountains.
I know. It is spectacular. So, here in Lone Pine, there's so many great films that were shot here. I mean, from Hell to Texas to 50 of the Hopalong Cassidy movies. What do you think of the album?
To Iron Man. Recently.
Oh, sure. Iron Man and Tremors.
Oh,
and Django Unchained. It's one of Quentin's favorite places up here, too. He spent his birthday here one year.
There you go. Well, like I said, why not? What a gorgeous town.
B-Westerns, that were so many of them shot here, the early John Wayne Lone Star Westerns and the Bob Steeles. Did you watch many B-Westerns growing up?
Oh, sure. No, I did. And, my dad did, I'm sure, a number of them up there, because he did all the Rin Tin Tins and a lot of them. And, they just honored him in Kanab. But, like I say, this was the backdrop for so many Westerns, and that was his genre. So
it sure added production value.
And being close to L.A. didn't hurt.
Patrick Wayne and I were talking about it as we were driving up here. We were saying it probably took them a whole day to drive up here back in the 30s, because the roads weren't quite like they are now.
Right. Well, it would take them a whole day today, too, though, by the time they drove up and then unloaded and everything else. So,
Have Gun Will Travel. Richard Boone loved working up here, and he would come and spend a week, and they would shoot 2 episodes back to back with the same cast in different roles. 3 days per show, and it gave it such a great production value too, instead of being on the back lot. Now with Daniel Boone, you guys had that wonderful 20th Century Fox in the hills out by Malibu to shoot a lot of those.
The dark and bloody grounds of Malibu. Yes, that's right.
Didn't look like Kentucky.
Well, it was between, we had the river and we had the little lake there, and and we went up to Frazier Park once or twice at least. We shot some snow scenes up there, and then of course we did go to Kanab for the pilot and one other show. But yeah, most of it was in the heart of Hollywood, Sunset and Western Avenue.
Fess Parker had been such an icon for many of us growing up as Davy Crockett, which was a phenomenon unexpected by practically everybody, because, well, even Disney was shocked because they had killed him off at the end of the third episode.
They killed off, yes, Davy Crockett at the Alamo.
Yeah.
That was the problem. You do 3 shows, him going there, but once old Davy gets to the Alamo, the story gets kind of thin.
So they did a prequel before that term was even around, and he fought Big Mike Fink as a keelboat. Now, Big Mike Fink, he did an episode with you,
yes,
where they think he's kidnapped you. Jeff York.
Yes, Jeff York.
Okay, agree with me. Yes,
I agree.
Jeff York.
It was Jeff York.
So, do you remember, you were so young back then, how do you remember all these things?
My mom always had at least 1 camera around her neck, sometimes 2. And
cheaper than jewelry.
Oh, she just was always taking pictures, and with me, sometimes it caused a little, because back then you had to do the aperture and the f-stop and the everything, so it would take a while. But I finally went through her boxes, and you never threw a picture away, even if it was bad. So I had to go through all those, and I got to put together a book about growing up Israel, And I got to see all these pictures and people I worked with that I even had forgotten I worked with.
I'm
or
in that book.
time I didn't appreciate. You're in that book. And so when you say, how was it? At the time I was just working. Jack Oakie, he did a Daniel Boone, and he was a friend. I'd see him at the house and stuff. And then I'll tell a great Jack Oakie one. So he was working, and he couldn't hear. He had hearing aids, which of course you can't wear when you're visiting Boonesboro. So he would take him out, and we would do a scene. But if it was like an over-the-shoulder at me, and the director would yell, "Cut," he wouldn't hear cut. So he'd keep doing the scene, and he'd keep talking at me, and I'd be like, excuse me, sir. Then like, no, don't say that to Mr. Oakie, So yeah, it was fun times.
There were a lot of interesting guest stars in those shows. I know John Carradine did one, and Michael Rennie. Do you remember anything about that? Because
Vincent Price.
These were big adults.
Vincent Price.
Oh, tell us about
Vincent.
Well,
I don't like horror films. I'm sorry. It's just not my genre. If I go, I want to see a comedy or something. And somehow my sisters loved to drag me to them, as big sisters do. And I somehow saw House of Wax, or at least as much of it through fingers as I could. And all of a sudden they told me I was working with Vincent Price. I'm like, okay, no. And I tried, when he was on the set the first day, I tried to stay as far away as I could like this. And I was sitting in my chair reading the script, getting ready for the next scene. All of a sudden, this hand comes on my shoulder. He goes, "Excuse me, Darby." I'm like, "Yes." He goes, "Would you sign an autograph for my daughter? She just loves you."
Oh, how nice.
And turned out to be the nicest, just what a gentleman.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Now, who were some of the other guest stars that you remember?
Well, also because Fess was so tall, he didn't want to seem that tall and big. So we also had the Woody Strogues, at Ames, all these people were large around, and Pat Blair, she was a tall woman. And so we would get athletes. We got, some of the biggest stars.
That's how you got Rosie Greer, probably.
We did get Rosie Greer, yes. Rosie taught me how to play football.
And knit, did he teach you how to knit?
Yes, he did.
All right.
He absolutely did. I love that, and I still love Rosie and seeing him. But he was, yes. No, he taught me how to play football during one of the breaks with the crew when we were playing. He goes, "Okay, Darby." And now I'm like, at that time, I guess, maybe 9, so I'm big now.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes, "Okay, I'm going to fake this way, I'm going to turn, I'm going to hand you the ball, and you run that way." "Okay, well, let's go, Rosie." And I went, and he went this way, and one of the fearsome foursomes turned around and implanted the ball in my stomach, lifted me about 2 feet off the ground, put me back down. So that was one of the ways I learned to play football.
Well, you mentioned Ed Ames. He played Mingo on the show, and how tall was he?
I don't know his exact height, but again, he was a man of, to all of them I was here. So,
but he matched up with Fess pretty well.
Yeah, he wasn't 6'7".
Did you know he started as a singer before he became a Native American?
Of course.
What was he, Harvard or Yale educated in the show?
English. No.
Oh.
He was over, he was over in England. English.
That's for you, pal.
Oh, that is so great. I love this. And my daughter has a LP, so I'll be able to hear it.
She has a turntable, I hope.
Yes.
Not an LP.
Yeah, I was
you
sorry,
have an LP.
turntable, yes.
It's an old term for us older guys.
No, we went to see him. Actually, it was with Pat Blair. We went to see him, and I'll remember he had a little bit of a heckler. And it kept going, and he was trying to do his thing, and the heckler, and he finally turned around and, "Don't ever with the Jewish Indian." I didn't say that word, did I? No.
I'll quiet him down.
But no, Ed was great. I got to tell you, at Fess's interment in Santa Barbara, on that beautiful little plot overlooking the ocean, and Ed stood up and sang "Amazing Grace."
Wow.
And that voice is still as dreamy as, "My cup runneth over," and all his hits he had.
No, I know you do a lot of the shows, the film tributes, festivals, and autograph shows, and he never has, Ed.
He doesn't get out of his Beverly Hills home. He's very happy there. I've gone up and visited him a few times and asked him if he'd wanted to come, and I said, it's great. It's because it's not only camaraderie. It's to me, one of the great parts, as you well know, is the afterwards. getting together. with
Getting
the act-
drunk. He means getting drunk.
I don't mean getting drunk. I mean, I didn't go to a regular school. I don't have any school reunions or college reunions or anything else like that. I come to these, I get to see people like these crazy guys out there on the horse, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
so
who would have
wait.
gone to school with them? But I go and I see actors that I did work with 20, 30 years ago that I haven't seen, and we can sit down and tell war stories and talk, and just, Bobby Carradine, and we become good friends. Johnny Crawford and I became friends through the show. Because even though we were all child actors in Hollywood back then, they were all presented as your competition. You can't talk to them. They're out for your job. You can't. So that's why I got into looking ahead through the Actors Fund, and where we make a community for actors so that they can interact. Because you're really an outsider if you're in the business. If some of you think high school is hard, just try being on television and being a personality and then being thrown back into a high school or a junior high or something. So, so that's why we've done Looking Ahead, and of course through Paul Peterson, A Minor Consideration, all these things to kind of help the kid actors, because we've lost too many.
Going to school then, how was that? Because by the time, how old were you when Daniel Boone ended?
12.
12. So then you went back to regular school?
I got
after
thrown
that?
right into a junior high school.
And how did kids treat you?
I got the beat out of me.
Oh.
I got beat up, and let's see if you're as tough as you were in Daniel Boone. And my girlfriend thinks you're cute. And it was a very rough time. And I didn't know how to fight back. Didn't have a dad, didn't have older brothers. I grew up on a set where you listen. The teachers loved me because I listened to adults and took direction well. But the kids, and then once the kids found out that you didn't fight back and they could pick on you, then it kind of became a thing. And, but, I can't fault it that much because it made me think. I remember when because I loved, filming at 20th, going to the different sound stages, because you were going to different worlds of whatever was going on. And there was this one show I really liked going and watching, and there was this guy on it in a mask, and boy, could he fight. I mean, they told him to slow his fighting down because it was too fast. He said, no, you slow your cameras down. And it was Bruce Lee, Green Hornet, right, when he was filming there. And I went, he knew how to fight. And so I started learning from him, from his people. I never got to learn from Bruce, but I even went to Hong Kong to see where he studied. I did study under William Cheung, the world's grandmaster and all. So it put me in a whole different world of martial arts, which I love.
Well, when you visited the Green Hornet set, were you introduced to him, or were you just
no,
watching?
I would creep in. It wasn't like, I was a little kid. I had nothing
Get
better
him
to
outta
do.
here.
Right, on, lunch break or whatever. I had my little bike, and I'd go visit. Like the Fantastic Voyage.
Yes.
Fantastic Voyage. With Stephen Boyd and Raquel Welch in that white spacesuit. Yes.
Yeah, she looked great in that.
Yes, she did.
Going on at that lot was Irwin Allen and all of these great sci-fi shows like Land of the Giants and
Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
and Lost in Space.
Yes.
Now, aren't you friends with Bill Mumy?
Well, sure, we went to school together.
Well, tell us about that.
Well, and Angela Cartwright, who played his sister, Veronica Cartwright played my sister, so... Yeah, we had
got a four-way. Oh.
No, let's not start that rumor there. But well, see what it was, we would film at Sunset and Western. That was the Pico, the lot they still have. But back then it was even bigger. It was on the other side of Olympic. It was after they sold off all of Universal,
to create
all of
Century
City. Right, but they still had on the other side of Olympic was all their machine shops and welding and all these things. Every Friday, Mrs. Clamp said, what do you want to do? And we could go pick any kind of skill and do it in these fabulous shops. I did spend a lot of time in the special effects shops, making like the Mud Man for Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. And then when we had Planet of the Apes, I had a collection of every single ape mask and gorilla and all the way up to the mutants at the end. It was wonderful. I loved getting to do that.
And you all had the same teacher.
Well, we all had our own separate teacher. Any kid that was on the set, one teacher to a set unless there were so many kids, and then you'd have two teachers. But there was a teacher at 20th that had taught everybody from Shirley Temple on up, and that was Miss Frances Clamp. And she had that schoolhouse. So when we weren't working, if I wasn't at the ranch or at Western, I would be on the Pico lot at that schoolhouse. You know, it was funny with Billy. Lost in Space went off the air a little bit before Daniel Boone did. And I remember Billy came back to Mrs. Clamp and came back into the schoolhouse and said, please, Mrs. Clamp, I just need to finish the semester and then I graduate. Can I please just finish it here? Can I? And she's like, I'm sorry, I can't unless you're under contract. You just can't do that. And he started out and I followed him down the hall. I'm like, Billy, what are you talking about? You're out. You know, you can go play baseball and football and be with other kids and go do all those things that we've just looked at. And he looked at me like, oh no, Darby, you don't understand. When you're out there, it's like you're the fastest gun in the West and everybody wants to shoot you down. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, come on. And then, like I say, when my show went off, I got thrown into that same atmosphere, and it's exactly what it is.
Well, the education that you received on the lot during your shooting days, when you went to a regular school, were you ahead or behind?
It depended on what they were saying and doing. And I have a little dyslexia. So a one-on-one teacher with me was perfect. Mm-hmm. I could talk and do everything else. Then you're thrown into a class with, like you say, it's not linear. I didn't know exactly what they were studying and stuff. And then you're supposed to stand up and talk about it it was not fun. I feel I got a very good education. Mm-hmm. Certainly know a lot more about Indians and the frontier than most kids.
Darby, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure swapping stories with you.
Thank you, pal.